All around the world, people are experiencing the same terrifying vision in their sleep.
It was just a black silhouette, completely black. I couldn't make out any features.
I never saw a face or eyes, but just this dark kind of outline of a man.
带着类似缩力那样黑色金子帽子，但是看不见脸。
A tall man with some type of a brim cap.
There was three of them for me, and the one in the middle was always the guy in the middle. He had a hat on. It was obviously the boss.
У них лидер мужчина в шляпе цилиндре. Они меня пугали, утаскивали душу на ночь.
Tenía un pánico, pero no me podía mover.
When your heart is beating, so fast you think you're gonna die.
Why are people everywhere having the same nightmare?
Y me estaba observando, era un tipo como un señor, digamos, ¿no?
The vision is virtually the same everywhere.
I just felt like there was somebody kind of around.
I haven't seen him in years, but I fear him. I do for sure.
I think it is a real challenge for the kind of scientific explanations to explain why some of these themes seem to crop up time and time again.
Chris is a psychologist who studies paranormal experiences. He says people who see things like the Hatman aren't crazy or lying. That fear and that vision is real, but the explanation has a lot more to do with culture than ghosts.
If you look at the way it's interpreted across different cultures, that's absolutely fascinating because you've got the same core experience, but it's kind of got this cultural overlay.
This nightmarish figure has inspired art and myths across cultures and history. In Assyria and Babylon, an evil spirit was said to leap upon unsuspecting victims as they slept. In ancient Greece, a doctor rode a demon that visited his patients at night and pressed upon their chests. Similar specters appear in folktales told from the Arctic to Japan to Newfoundland. And for most of history, no one knew why. By the late 20th century, the science of sleep evolved to offer another explanation. It's called sleep paralysis.
You're stuck in a state where you're awake, but the only thing you can do is move your eyes, breathe.
Alon Avedon is the director of the Sleep Disorders Center at UCLA. He says we're always paralyzed while we dream. That's normal. But when the brain wakes up before the body does, that's sleep paralysis.
You cannot scream, you cannot talk.
In fact, a lot of people experience sleep paralysis, and it can come with terrifying visions. Sleep scientists have a specific term for this.
One unique parasomnia is called terrifying hypnagogic hallucinations. What happens is the patient wakes up and they start seeing images of other people who are trying to hurt them.
But even Avedon says he doesn't understand why all those hallucinations are so similar. Sleep paralysis visions are shaped by cultural influences the dreamer may not even be consciously aware of. For example, that man in the hat looks an awful lot like a figure we've come to associate with horror.
Who the hell is that?
The Hatman, when I sat and thought about it, the thing that came to my mind was this. Freddy Krueger and the kind of Nightmare on Elm Street films were actually directly inspired by sleep paralysis. This notion that you can be attacked when you're asleep, that's when you're vulnerable. And of course, Krueger wears a hat.
There's still no definitive answer for why some people see these shadowy visitors. But those who do don't have to be haunted by them forever.
Treatment for this is to have the patient relive and re-experience the hallucination during wakefulness, during the day, and begin to imagine positive emotions or associate positive emotions with that image.
Another one, though, this was no dream. This gentleman, he had attempted suicide, and he woke up in the hospital and turned to his bedside and there was a Hatman sitting there looking at him. And he said, "I almost had you." And he disappeared.
Oh, my gosh. Now, is the hat, Heidi, always on, or does he sometimes take it off?
I've heard of him tipping his hat. I have not heard of him taking it off where people have seen him take it off.
I wonder if they'd see horns there.
That would totally be highly disturbing. But he's tipped his hat and acknowledging people, witnessing him. But I have not heard of any horns or anything like that showing up. That would be really, really awful. So he is communicating, and he is essentially admitting to being the devil. So people's feeling, their notion, seems to be correct. Now, there is also another entity that has been showing up that people would write to me about, and I have some drawings up that, again, as my research has progressed with these shadow people, I'm getting a clear understanding of them. And there's a hooded one. And when people would describe to me, the shadow person with the hood, and I'm like, oh no, shadow people do not have anything solid that can be recognized to be a hood, a hat, or anything like that. They are shadows. They're very, very thick as being shadows and whatnot. But excuse me.
Sure.
But there's a Grim Reaper type of being showing up. Very, very tall, very dangly, very skinny, very solid. Once again, this guy has been seen walking along roadsides. And
do people die when they come in contact with this thing?
They do not die, but it seems like they feel grim when they do see this thing and know that it's up to no good, and know that it poses to be no good. And one story in particular was really disturbing that I got in connection to this Grim Reaper creature. A gentleman wrote me telling me how in broad daylight he saw smaller hooded type creatures with red eyes coming over treetops, coming toward him, and he just got this distinct feeling. He knew they were coming for him. There were two of them. He knew they were coming for him. He ran inside his house. They left. Second time he saw them, he looked outside his window, broad daylight. Two of them came. They came right through his window this time and grabbed him. One grabbed under each arm and pulled him over treetops and took him to, he said, what looked almost to be like a rundown castle-looking type building, and took him inside where this Grim Reaper, this taller, 8 to 10 foot tall, creature was sitting on this, stone, looking throne thing. And he said he remembers conversing with this creature, and he said he knew that he wasn't going to be able to recall all the things that were being told him, but he did know this thing said, "I'll send for you again." And he knew that this thing meant business, and that it was not a good thing for this thing to want to have contact with them again. And he was sent away by the two smaller hooded creatures and took him back to his home. And he wrote me essentially asking, how can I make sure this guy doesn't, send for me again, how to protect myself. And so I just wanted to make a distinction that these hooded ones are something that I'm still looking into, trying to figure what is going on with this Grim Reaper type of creature. But it's something I think that's important to note when it comes to shadow people, the Hatman, this Grim Reaper type guy.
And are you saying that the ETs that are hooked into this shadow, this Hatman, this Hatman, not the and shadow people as well, are they all related? All related?
They are related in a sense because of their roles that they're playing. The shadow people are essentially the force behind what's directing the more negative beings to do the abductions, to try to conquer this planet. And this is not the first planet that they've done this to. And in the Bible, it's written of, demonic creatures that could take on any form. I mean, this sounds an awful lot like what these shadow people are able to do. And then to have this Hatman showing up also in the same area where these shadow people are often being seen, the Grim Reaper-looking creature, same thing. And you gotta, I've had, many people write to me saying, some aliens took me down to a very hot and smelly place, smelled like sulfur, and did experiments on me. Is this the place of torture written of in the Bible and hell? It makes you wonder. You got to make the connection sometime and say, my gosh, is this what was been warned about for all these centuries in the Bible?
If it's happening, it's frightening.
Yes, it is. And it's important to note, though, too, if these things are not actually connected to evil, why on earth do they acknowledge the name Jesus to stay away from them and God? They don't like light. They don't like things that are positive. When people write to me looking for help, I tell them, bless your home. Wear a religious symbol to bed at night, especially a cross. Of course, I'm Christian, so I tell people to keep that positivity in them, keep that light in them, because these creatures will leave. And I've had people say, I said, oh, God, please help me, when these things came to me, but nothing happened. They still got me. And I'm like, there's that movie, Salem's Lot, where the guy holds up a cross to the vampire, and the vampire takes the cross out of his hand and laughs and says, you got to have faith in order for that to work. So,
exactly. Yeah.
That's common sense. You got to have something behind what you're saying.
How disappointing. You think you're able to battle off a vampire and it doesn't work.
Yeah, but...
Well, what are the possibilities that what people are seeing are still the fallen angels?
He is dark. He is featureless. He wears a hat. And when people see him, they feel paralyzed, unable to speak, a crushing sense of breathlessness, like something evil is pressing on their chests. And when they're finally able to move, he's gone.